Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. I don't know what episode this is. What episode are we on? Who made the show notes? What's going on?
239.
239. This is episode 239. That's exciting, right? It's February 20th, 2013. We're totally ready for this show. It's going to be a great one. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath, and I'm lagging out like a mofo.
And I'm Alan Malventano laughing.
Everybody else is doing great. Alan has a tiny lower third, but other than that, I think...
Alan's a strong
isn't it?
Got the tiny
Oh no, what's going on?
But his girlfriend doesn't mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
not
get it.
about
I get
length.
it. Tiny lower third. I see what I did there. That was a good
Yeah.
one, actually. I should... It's not about the lower third.
And
It's-
loses it in the corner.
All right, so let's talk about some stuff, because I gotta stop talking about stuff and then write about stuff. Let's start with, if you're listening to this and you weren't here last night when we did our Crysis 3 live stream, you missed out. We did a Crysis 3 live stream, and we gave away hardware. We gave away two 7970s. We gave away some game keys for Crysis 3 and Bioshock Infinite. And we had Robert Halleck, a good friend of ours from AMD, on to talk about the Never Settle Reloaded bundle they were doing, the advantages of 7000 series graphics cards, and you got to watch me play Crysis 3. It wasn't that bad. Died a few times, only jumped off of the end of the world once. So I think that's actually better than normal. If you missed it and you want to watch me play for, 90 minutes, something like that, we have the YouTube link up there in glorious 1080p 4.2 gigabyte uploaded files. So you have access to that if you need it. But pay attention. If you watch the stream, you'll notice that not only did we give away 7970s and game keys, but we teased that we're going to give away an Asus Ares 2. I don't know if you guys even knew that. Did you know that?
Yeah, I tweeted you back that I already didn't care because I know neither Josh or I will get it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. You can't win.
But actually, I did apply. My username is what? Lube Grip Plastidip.
Nice. Yeah, no, that guy definitely is going to be a winner at life. If nothing else. So how can you win the Ares 2 coming up? Go to the other AMD-sponsored game streams that we're going to do. Tomb Raider is on March 5th, and then March 19th is the Bioshock Infinite. So we'll have details at both of those events. And you can find all of that at pcper.com/live. And also you can watch this recorded podcast at pcper.com/live, and you can see the schedule on the right-hand side of their website. Right. Yeah. And eventually I hope to have a countdown timer. I've had lots of people ask for that. I just am no good at JavaScript and stuff. So let's move on. Let's talk with Josh.
No.
Briefly.
Oh.
About the Gigabyte F2 A85X UP4 motherboard. This is actually an FM2 motherboard, so think Trinity.
Trinity.
Give us a little overview of what this is and kind of what your thoughts are on this board for that platform.
Okay. It's pretty good. Is that good enough?
That's brief. Maybe a little bit too
little
brief.
too brief.
Just give me a little bit of. Do you like the motherboard?
I did talk about this a little bit last week, but I didn't
that's
have
true.
any of the graphs or any of the pictures or things that really made a difference in a article up because
True.
I'm late.
Yeah,
Said
you're not
my girl.
pregnant though, are you?
No. It's a good board. Gigabyte, they've had some up and down years, but lately they've been on top of things. It's a good product. It's FM2. The biggest problem with any FM2 motherboard is going to be the CPU you're going to put in it. Trinity at the max is $129 CPU. They say it's quad core. It's a 2-module. It can only handle 2 threads really at one time, even though it handles 4. But that's all because of the decoder stuff. But anyway, it essentially is a quad core, but it doesn't match extremely well with anything from Intel above $140. So this is kind of an enthusiast motherboard, but we don't have an enthusiast CPU in it. The strength of this board is the A85X chipset. This is really the only chipset on the market that has 8 native SATA 6G ports on it. It's got 4 ports of native USB 3.0, And these perform very, very well. I mean, they're not quite up to the level Intel, but when you look at the Intel Z77 chipset, it's got, what, 2 ports of USB 3.0
Yep.
and 2 ports
4, actually. It has 4. It has 2 in the
This
back and
doesn't-
then a front panel.
for USB 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's got 2 SATA 6G ports as compared to 8.
Yeah.
And even though those are fast, a little bit faster than what AMD offers, there's not many of them. So you've got 2 SSDs on that, or, you know, if you're trying to do some kind of, you know, built-in RAID, you're just going to be a little out of luck if you want to do more than striping, or well, I don't know why you'd want to do mirroring on 2 SATA 6 ports. Alan could maybe answer that a little bit better than me. But it's a really strong chipset. It's a single chip, and it's got a ton of features on it. In terms of board quality, it's really high. It features those IR kind of power MOSFETs, or power IR stages, I think is the official marketing name. Essentially, they're high amperage, they're very high efficiency, they're low heat. They're really high-end chips that are a little bit more expensive than what we usually see on any motherboard, and this is a big marketing point for them. And they're good chips. They provide good power, very solid. It's got they're digitally controlled by another chip, so they react well for any kind of changes with the CPU. And it's just kind of overkill for any Trinity CPU out there because they don't really overclock all that well. I mean, a 4 gigahertz or what is the highest? 3.8, which boosts up to 4.2.
Yes.
You can only overclock them to about 4.5 before they start crapping out without any kind of extreme cooling, such as LN2. You could do a little bit higher than 4.5 with water cooling, but not a whole lot. I mean, they're not great overclocking chips. They've got the GPU in there already, so you know it's the APU that may be holding it back. I don't really know.
Yeah.
All we know is that it's not an enthusiast CPU as compared to what is out there for a little bit more. I mean, you can get the FX 6300, which is the Vishera, 6-core based FX processor. It performs better. It's got 8 megs of L3 cache. It can overclock better. And that's like $10 more expensive, if even that. And motherboards are very comparable in price, though the feature set is going to be less than what we see on this Gigabyte board. So, kind of wrapping this up, the performance of this product is really the same as any other FM2 board out there. What you're buying it for are the features. It's got slightly better audio in that they have it surrounded by a lot of nice capacitors, and it's just very clean design. Cooling is great. The power delivery is outstanding. The BIOS feature set is very nice. I'm not entirely enthused with the Gigabyte 3D BIOS, but it works.
Yeah.
And everything. It's just a nice product for a nice price. And if you're kind of a budget enthusiast and you really want a high-end motherboard experience, this is good for what I think it's $129. And you'd have to pair it with a $129 A10 5800K to really get your money out of it in terms of overclocking, performance, and everything that you get. But again, it's too bad AMD has yet to provide a really outstanding CPU that enthusiasts would like for this particular socket.
Fair enough. What's not $129?
Your mom?
Close. GeForce GTX Titan. It will not be $129. So on Tuesday, NVIDIA kind of lifted the skirt, if you will, on the GTX Titan. This is the consumer graphics card based on GK110. We were allowed to talk about the card, the design, the pricing, the features, the GPU Boost 2.0, overclocking, all that crap. We just couldn't show you benchmarks. And unfortunately, I can't talk about the benchmarks on this podcast either. But if you're watching this live, the performance benchmarks will be up at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. If you're watching this recorded, it's live now. Please go to PCPro.com and check out the full review of the GeForce GTX Titan. Also, quick reminder up front, if you are watching this live, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, whatever GMT, 7 GMT, 7:0700? Okay. 7 p.m. GMT, so 1900. See how we did that quick 12 plus 7 math? NVIDIA's very own Tom Peterson will be here in studio to do a live stream about the GTX Titan, showing us the features, showing off the performance, taking your questions, and just generally doing the stuff that Tom does. So you'll want to be here for that. It will be fun and exciting. Learn stuff. Maybe we'll have something to give away. No promises. Back to the Titan itself. This is GK110. It has 2,688 CUDA cores, 7.1 billion transistors. The clock speeds are 836 base, 876 boost. So clock speeds are noticeably lower than what you get on like the GTX 680. But you have a much larger chip, much larger chip, many more processors, so that kind of makes sense. You also get a memory bus increase from 256 to 384 bits. It's a 50% increase. Even better, that memory is still running at 6 gigahertz. So you're getting, get this, 6 GBs of GDDR5 memory running at 6 gigahertz on this card. 6 gigabyte frame buffer for a single GPU. That is double what's on the Radeon HD 7970 gigahertz edition and triple what is on NVIDIA's own GTX 680. So that's a pretty impressive amount of memory. And just guessing, you'll probably see the majority of that benefit in triple display configurations, right? So even at 25 by 16, 6 gigabyte frame buffer with Crysis 3 maxed out, you're not using 6 gigs of memory, would be my guess. But maybe with 25 by 14 times 3, you would? Close? Maybe. We'll see. Very good GPU. I mean, we've talked about the GPU before. It is... There are some people who are, if you look at it as the glass half empty type of person, you see GK110 is what GTX 680 should have been. And people will say, well, GTX 680 is actually the chip that was originally planned to go in the 660 Ti. I don't know if you subscribe to that philosophy, Josh, but I do not.
No, I do not. Okay. GK110 is, I mean, if you just look at the double precision units in the GTX 680 versus this, I mean, this was aimed at the professional market where they can make some high margins for a while until they're making high margins on the retail market with a $999 product.
Right. I do want to show this picture that Ken took. This is a GK110 die with a good old-fashioned George Washington quarter sitting on top of it. And if you can see, the quarter almost completely fits inside the area of the die. 551 square millimeters. It is large. It is a large chip. Josh, I think you said that is close to the reticle limit, like the manufacturing limit.
Yeah, that's the practical reticle limit. I mean, theoretical is up around 600 to 630, I think, millimeters square for that particular process technology. So when you're hitting 551 and expecting to get good yields, I think I did a die calculator for about something this size on a 300 millimeter wafer. There's like 130 spots for actual dies on there, and when you start to consider yields and chip recovery, you're maybe looking at 50% at max, and that's because they disable units in this particular chip.
Right. It normally has 15 SMX units for like 2880. Is that right? Something like that. 2890. I don't remember, but then they disable one SMX to get you the 2688 total. If you look at the card design itself, it looks very similar to the GTX 690, the dual GPU GK104 part. Very, very cool design. You're not going to see AICs changing this design at all. You're going to see a different sticker on the fan, essentially. We have a 6-pin and an 8-pin power connector, so it does use more power than the 680. Has a stronger connection, but it's nothing super dramatic. 2 SLI connectors, so you do have support for 3-way SLI. And here is the display configurations. You have 2 dual-link DVI, full-size HDMI, full-size DisplayPort. in my opinion, the best. And look at that depth of field. Good picture, Ken.
Hey, you know what? I kind of like the 2 mini DP and 1 HDMI, but that's just me.
No, it's not just you.
Well, see, here's the advantage that you get with this is you can use all 4 of these at one time without any active adapters.
Yeah, I was able to use all 4 of mine on my 6970.
Without an active adapter?
Well, I mean, just the active adapters without the USB power.
Okay. Yeah, but you don't have to have an adapter of any kind for this, except for just like a standard single adapter. And they probably box them with this too. So either way, I like having more DVI connections because I have a lot of DVI monitors. And I think most people have a lot of DVI monitors.
Yes.
Here's the card right here. Ken went and brought one over for us. This is one of the Titans we have sitting around the office.
Paperweights.
Yeah, it's actually shorter too. It's 10.5 inches long, so it can fit in more chassis designs. They even talk about fitting it in mini ITX cases and small form factor systems and that kind of stuff. We can argue about that later, maybe next week after we do the full review on whether or not that's a useful usage for a $1,000 graphics card. But this is the Titan card. So what else did we learn about it? It uses a vapor chamber cooler. Here's what they're very happy about the noise quality of it. So here they compare GTX Titan 3-way, 680 3-way, HD 7970 3-way, and these are noise levels. And somebody with a more scientific mind than me right now could tell you that the difference between 47 and 53 decibels is pretty big. And then the difference between 57 and 53 and 61 is big as well. So this is actually a very, very quiet card. It's the single Titan is quieter than a single 680 while outperforming it as well. So that's a combination of better cooler design, better PCB design, and also the new GPU Boost technology that we'll talk about as well. Speaking of which, let's switch over to the GPU Boost 2.0 page. GPU Boost, you remember, is the technology that NVIDIA added to Kepler to enable dynamic clock speeds when you have thermal headroom to do so. Now, before, they were not monitoring anything directly. They were trying to calculate power consumption based on a couple different factors. Now they've changed it so that on Titan, they're actually measuring temperature directly. So because of that, they say they have been able to move the maximum clock speed of the GPU higher than they would have been able to otherwise. And due to popular demand, they are reintroducing the capability to increase the voltage on these cards. So you might have heard some people complain that EVGA's typical volt-modded version of the 680, I think they actually sold it and then pulled it back, or they had some reviews of it but then couldn't sell it, or something to that effect, because EVGA said that NVIDIA wasn't allowing their partners to adjust voltages except for through the embedded firmware in the card. So that will be changed a little bit. The AICs will have more capability to adjust things, and the end user will have the capability to adjust voltage in Precision X, MSI Afterburner, and the other applications that you use for that. What I think is maybe the most interesting thing here now is this particular graph. If you look at this, the yellow line is GPU Boost 2.0. The gray line that's a little bit lighter behind it is GPU Boost 1, the original version. And what you'll see is that they're targeting temperature, and their goal is to keep the GPU at that target temperature for a much larger period of time than it would have been previously. And it does that by adjusting voltage and by adjusting fan speeds. And then what you can do is, just like you could overclock with a power target in the first version, now you can overclock by temperature target. So while the default Titan temperature target is 80°C, you can say bump that up to 90°C if you're comfortable with that additional heat and the fan noise that will come with it, and you'll move your performance with it as well. So see, if you look at this graph, you'll see stock temp in gray plus 10C temp in green, and you'll see that you're boosting your frequency up that way. This here, you can see the fan curves. The fan is pretty much almost silent, I would say, up to getting close to 80°C, and then once you get near that and past it, the fan will ramp up in order to keep the GPU at the 80C level. And then obviously you can adjust those fan curves as well. This is kind of an updated version of Precision X. You see the power target listed as well as the temp target, and you can prioritize one or the other. You still have GPU clock offset, you still have memory offset, but you also have voltage tweaking options as well. Maybe the final thing I'll mention here is they did, what was that, frame rate targeting with the first version of GPU Boost and adaptive VSync. Cool features, not specifically performance related, but neat features for users to take advantage of. Now they're coming out with another one called, they're just calling display overclocking. And this is the capability of the Titan card to push more than 60 hertz to a 60 hertz panel. Maybe 70 hertz, maybe 80 hertz. It's going to vary depending on your monitor. Excuse me. Depending on what scaler is in your monitor, if there is one. But it will come with a tool that will allow you to, like, say, push 70 hertz to it, hit apply, and if you don't get a black screen, you hit accept, and it will save it, and it will attempt to run it. If you do get a black screen, it will revert back to the original capability. So what does that do? That would allow you to enable VSync in your games, but then get frame rates locked at 70 or 80 instead of 60. Josh, you think that's a neat thing to add? Would that be something you would use?
Yes, it would, absolutely. I have 3 LCDs here. 60 hertz is fine with VSync on. That's 60 frames per second. But for a long time, I used a 22-inch CRT that I think was a max at 2048 by 1536. Mm-hmm. And I would cut that back down to 16 by 12 and run it at, I think, 120 hertz. And I tried to, lock VSync in and play games, things like Counter-Strike. I mean, it made such a difference in terms of fluidity, how well your response time is. I mean, just reactions, everything. 120 hertz is kind of wonderful.
Yep.
When you actually play it and you realize the advantages of it. And so, yes, I would love to get away from the stinking 60 hertz monitors and go higher. And if I can do that through a software utility that will overclock my monitors, I'm ecstatic.
So finally, here's a little page. It shows NVIDIA saying you can use Titan in small form factor systems, like the ones you set next to glasses of wine for some reason. Don't spill it. And then you have this type of system as well. This is the Geekbox rig that was sent with 3 GTX Titan cards.
Do you have to do a 2-man lift with that?
Pretty much. It shipped on a pallet to my house. I think unnecessarily so, but it shipped on a pallet. I think it was more of a safety measure than anything else. But I did rip the cards out to do our standard test bed. And then there's that nifty picture again. So it's a good card. It's $1,000. We'll debate the value of that after we can talk about performance, which will be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Thursday morning 9 a.m. if you're watching this after the fact. And go there, check out the full results. We'll talk about it. There will be a lot to talk about next week. So we'll try to do a podcast next week, I guess is what I'm saying. Don't forget to join Tom Peterson and I tomorrow afternoon for a Titan live stream. It'll be interesting, probably.
So you can now say with a straight face that with this card you can tighten up your graphics.
I could.
You guys have you never watched that?
I could say that, but I'm not.
Tighten up your graphics.
No, I get it. I expect better of you most of the time.
Well, I'm working on it.
His marketing campaign.
Alan, let's talk real quickly about an accurate look at SSD write endurance. There was a story that came out yesterday, I guess, hit Slashdot about all the problems in the world were solved with SSDs, and you, even though you are a big proponent of the idea of using SSDs, you thought maybe it was a little overzealous.
Right. Actually, and a year ago minus 1 day is when I wrote the rebuttal piece to that UC, like University of California, whatever, that piece that was like all the dreary, whatever, bleak future of flash memory, right? Remember that one?
Yeah.
So back then you had guys that put together this piece that basically SSDs were just going to hit some brick wall and all was just going to end and nobody was they just weren't going to use them anymore or
Sure.
something. Made it sound really bad. And so I rebutted that one. Well, yesterday on Slashdot, they posted another paper. Who was the author's name? Magnus
Ooh.
Deininger.
Nice.
It's yeah.
That's a serious article.
Dude's in Germany. Yeah. So whole bunch of math in there, lays a whole bunch of stuff out. Everything was good in that respect. The problem was that the basis that the whole thing was sort of focused around was missing some important things. And in this case, it was leaning way, like making SSDs look awesome. Like the things are just going to last forever, and you're really never going to hit the limit on them, and you're just never going to burn out the flash. Unfortunately, that was too far the other direction. So, it was based on some citing flash memory rated for 1 million program erase cycles, which nothing that you can really buy or practical capacity is going to do that. And then there was just some other, sort of
Sure.
just errors that just needed to be sort of pointed out, corrected, just set the record straight sort of thing.
Yep.
Because basically I'm either way on it. Any kind of misinformation about it that would just give other people ammo to, even guys on Slashdot were jumping in and saying, hey, this is so wrong because of this, because of that. Well, that actually ends up giving SSDs a bad name.
Are you trying
Right,
to tell me
even
that
though-
somebody in the internet was wrong and that you had to correct them?
Well, I mean, it happens, right? So we do our due diligence and we try to correct them. So that's basically all it was.
Okay.
Just sort of, pointing out, set the record straight on some stuff. And, yeah.
Good.
That's pretty much it.
Good
Good stuff.
All right. It is that time of the show, everybody. Prepare. Are you prepared, Josh?
Yeah.
That's a deep breath in.
He's ready for something all new.
We are here.
All new.
Josh Walrath. Alex is here. He's going to tell us about a product from our favorite podcast sponsor, kind of our only podcast sponsor right now, but our favorite podcast sponsor, MSI. Alex?
Graphics cards. The award-winning Twin Frozen series of GPU coolers feature a nickel-plated copper base, large 8mm super pipes, dense heat-fin stack, and the innovative propeller blade design with dust removal technology. Coupled with our industry-leading military-class component design and the widely acclaimed Afterburner overclocking software, MSI provides the best in overclocking and gaming on your rig. Gear up and game on with MSI GeForce GTX today.
Now, thank you, Alex, for and MSI for sponsoring the show, but I'm angry. I happen to flip my browser over to Twitter, and I see that Josh Walrath has just tweeted, quote, tighten up the graphics. I should work for NVIDIA marketing.
I should.
So rather than let us use that line in our story for tomorrow, you blew
You wanted to use
Blew
that
it.
line?
I blew it all up.
and you just posted it publicly. Now we cannot use it.
It's out on the internet.
It is useless.
You're
to me
going to
now.
use it anyway.
It is. I'm going to be up late, and towards the end, I'm going to be desperate for words to fill a page, and tighten up the graphics might show up 12 times for all I know. Right? Your only downside, Josh, is that you didn't all caps the word tighten. All right, because that's the correct spelling.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about some news things. AMD wants to set the record straight on its future GPU strategy. Last week or the week before, we discussed the possibility that they would have no new GPUs in 2013 because of this slide that said no new GPUs throughout 2013. Actually, it says stable throughout. And so there was a mini crisis on the AMD GPU world, so they had a meeting, a melding of the minds where they brought some AMD executives. They called a bunch of us in. They tried to tell us how it was all going to be okay. We all were confused. And then they tried to answer it again, and we were all like, no, I don't get it still. Are you going to release new cards? And then finally, they just said yes. So the kind of story out of this was Sea Islands is the name of a GPU family that includes Solar System. Solar System being targeted towards the mobile parts. Now, some of those will be 8000 series branded. We've already seen the 8000 M series released, and which one did we see? The 8650 and the 8670 are already out and shipping in mobile and OEM desktop designs, codenamed Mars and Oland. One of those is a planet, the other one is an island, hence the Sea Islands and the solar system. But they were not real specific. They kind of said the 7900 series was going to extend through the end of the year as its high-end brand. What that probably means to me is that we will probably see other 7900 cards released using Sea Islands, but staying in the 7000 series branding. Not 100% sure. But maybe what's more important is that by the end of 2013, before January 1st, 2014, they said we would see a completely new product stack from AMD on the GPU side. So whether that's 9000 series or they're going to start different branding, they can't use 8000 anymore for like a completely new architecture if they happen to go that way. They didn't confirm it was a new architecture. They did confirm that it was going to be GCN based, but we know that everything going forward is going to be GCN based. It's just how derivative and how much changes there are going to be. So you might be wondering, why is AMD breaking its standard cadence of near yearly GPU releases? The answer came from AMD's Roy Taylor, VP of Channel Sales, who said that, quote, 7000 series parts are continuing to ramp up and sales are increasing, end quote. So it's premature for AMD as a company intending to make money to introduce a new series or architecture. Essentially, the 7000 series cards are selling so well that there's no need for them to release an 8000 series. And I think some people will be upset by that, but I think you should consider the fact that, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, if we were to have had an 8000 series by now, it wouldn't be that much better based on Sea Islands than it would be today based on Southern Islands.
That's correct, because the original, well, the 7970 Cayman is still a big chip. It's one of the bigger chips that AMD has released in a long time, since the R600. R600 caused problems, as you well know. So they really don't want to go above that size in terms of die size, and they don't want to go into the Titan range, which is 551 millimeters square, and you know, your yields are going to be crap. You've got, you know, $10,000 wafers, and you've got maybe 50 to 70 of them coming out okay. You can do the math, see how much each one of those costs, and know the risks involved. And I just don't think that they want to go there. And plus, 28 nanometer has not ramped. Well, I mean, it's ramped fine, but they haven't added any real performance features other than improving yields over time. And so, you know, they're just not going to get a whole lot of performance out of it unless they're willing to take that next step and make a significantly bigger die, which, once the bean counters get a hold of things and start figuring out, you know, cost versus return, it just kind of looks bad.
So, and there was a lot of, in this call, Little Inside Baseball, there was a lot of arguing back and forth because we didn't think they were giving us enough information. They were being very ambiguous and kind of guarded about things when they you know, kind of said they were going to start the call to clear up any of the confusion, and really they just left things more confused. Roy came in with a very emphatic statement that he said, quote, "We have products, we have a roadmap. We are not announcing them now because we want to reposition the products we have now. We are not sitting still. We do not lack resources. We do not lack imagination." Because I think a lot of people may look at that stable through 2013 and think that AMD is falling behind or something like that. And what they're...
Did he say that in a Morgan Freeman voice? Because that would have made it even more emphatic and dramatic.
Almost as if there was an asteroid hurtling at our planet.
Exactly.
See, Josh went and distracted me. The AMD wants they want people to think. They want people to know. They want their messaging to be that they believe they have the best products on the market today. And because of that, there should be little demand for them to be moving forward, right? That's what they want people to think. And basically, Roy was saying that his team, has done a very good job of convincing people that they have the best products in the market. And that's why you have Never Settle campaigns, why you have Never Settle Reloaded. That's why we're doing these game streams and they're sponsoring that. They want to get the word out about their products, about their bundles and that kind of stuff. And I think there's definitely validity to that. But when you start to lose cadence, people expect this stuff. It's gonna raise questions. And I think it's a fair concern that if they released an 8000 series part next month, they released a whole 8000 based on Sea Islands and it wasn't much better, would we have complaints about that? Would the same people be complaining about that? And I think that would probably be the case. So it's not all super clear still, but yeah, figure it out with.
But prices are getting better, except on NV side.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get what, a 7970 for $330 on special.
$379, I think, is the normal price for the standard 7970, and the 7970 gigahertz edition is $459. Because I just looked.
And $120 worth of games too.
Yeah, and you get the bundles, which can make a difference. All right, let's move along. We're trying to keep this brief.
You're out of luck.
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about crowdfunded mini ITX case, the Ncase M1. This is real short. Some guys that actually started on HardOCP's forums talking about what cool things would they want to put in their ideal mini ITX case. Decided to take their idea to, what's that called? Indiegogo. So they've actually been working with Lian Li as a manufacturer, getting ideas, and they were raising money to get the initial prototypes made. You can see here I've got some pictures of it. It will hold a GTX 690, I'm guessing is what that is. Yeah, it's got two 8-pins on there. Yeah, probably not a Titan. So it's got 3 expansion slots, GPU support for a 12.5-inch card, it says. Fairly large CPU cooler support, 3 3.5-inch hard drives, 3 2.5-inch hard drives, slot loading, optical drive, support for SFX or ATX power supplies. Some pretty cool additions there. So you can also see here on the back of the case, you can actually, they're claiming to be able to support like water-cooled graphics cards. That's actually pretty sweet. That's a big-ass radiator. There's some cool stuff here. If you want to go to Indiegogo.com and you can support their project, they have already met their initial goal of $3,000. They are up to almost $6,600. I wonder if that's probably not a good idea to put that Coke can in there, is it? It should be cola.
Well, it could have been a glass of wine.
Yeah, see, that would have been better. And obviously, somebody did the $2,000 donation here where you got the prototype after the fact. It wasn't me. What's the regular contribution? The regular contributions go from $1. This says special thanks. $5, $10, $10, $2,000. Oh, how much is the case projected to cost? Well, see, this is only to get the prototypes, and they're going to do another funding to try to get. It's not like Kickstarter, right? So it's a little bit different.
Indiegogo is like Kickstarter.
Well, but they have looser rules. The retail price of the M1 is projected to be between $160 and $200. So expensive, but not super stupid. And if it's good, then I'm all for it. All right, let's talk about a couple of other things before we disconnect here on purpose this time. Sony announced PlayStation 4 today, and I will admit they gave more detail than I was expecting them to give for February press announcement.
They certainly gave a lot of props to PC gaming.
They did. So what do we know about the hardware? They did say it was going to be an 8-core x86 CPU. Where's that? Did you put that? We put that link in the chat with the other Gawker stats, because they mentioned in another spec sheet we saw, they specifically mentioned Jaguar cores, like you were talking about before, Josh.
I did? Sure, I'll go with it.
That's all. You're not going to take any more credit than that?
No.
No. They have a 2 teraflops GPU integrated on the same die. I don't
think it's on the same die. They just said same chip.
Okay, so same substrate.
I think it's going to be 2 dies on a shared substrate.
What do you think about this stat? This is the one that I am the most confused about. 8 gigs of GDDR5 shared memory.
Yeah, it's got to be sharing a memory controller on probably the GPU, much like I think Xenos did. That AMD,
that used.
designed.
I thought it had separate GPU and CPU memory on that. Did it not? Because my thing is, I don't understand.
No, PS3 did. It had
Yeah.
separate GPU and CPU memory, but I think Xbox was all one.
So do you not think it's a huge hurdle for the Jaguar processing cores to be able to utilize a GDDR5 memory bus in some fashion?
No, it all depends on the memory controller and how that memory controller is then connected to the CPU. It depends on the crossbar that they're using. And again, I mean, you've got high-speed memory controllers that, on Trinity. You can just kind of look at that and
Sure.
think of what they're able to do.
That's
They can adjust
DDR3.
some things around. I don't know.
That's DDR3. Do you not think it's a big step to suddenly have an APU or CPU from AMD that can handle GDDR5?
It's just memory, and memory controllers running GDDR5 are very mature. It's just that
Okay.
when we look at computer standards, main memory has been cheaper. They wanted it cheaper, and now memory is absolutely dirt cheap, and process technology is kind of surpassing everything. I mean those specs for DDR3 were made how many years ago?
Oh, a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's not a big jump really
Okay.
in engineering
Okay.
terms.
Stereo camera on the controller with a light bar. And it's also a touch sensor on the controller. And a spindle-based hard drive? I don't know if that's... I guess maybe that'll be the... Yeah, I guess an SSD would be too expensive. Maybe it'll have a cache on it. Yeah?
Well, could you swap the Blu-ray in for that?
No. So you don't
I
like
know.
you don't like the continued inclusion of a Blu-ray drive? I think a lot of people will continue to want to use, like the PlayStation 3 was the best Blu-ray player for a long time and may still be, that they will think of the PlayStation 4 as that continuing device.
You know what really stinks about streaming video? Sure, you can get it up to 1080p, but you've still got some encoding errors, and
Oh, yeah.
not only that, but audio. I like my DTS master audio. You can't get that through streaming. You get stereo at most.
And you should be happy, Josh.
I am not happy.
What do you estimate the performance of this system to be when you hear 8 Jaguar cores, a 2 teraflop GPU, which is a 2 teraflop GPU? I'm trying to think.
It's in between a 7770 and a 7850. It's a custom
Okay, that's
GPU.
what I thought.
It's
All right.
not anywhere on AMD's stack.
Okay.
And
So-
obviously they've had to do some other different things to get the memory controller to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
So, I mean, where do you think it will fall? When the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 were announced, their specs were very impressive compared to high-end PCs. Do you think that will be the case when we, like at E3 in June, when we actually start to see demos and stuff from this?
no. But it doesn't have to be. Because we're limited by essentially 1080p rendering. And even a HD 7770 can do 1080p in most games at high levels without a problem. And you've got the PS4, which you can program close to the metal, so the efficiency is higher. You're going to get better performance overall from a piece of silicon as compared to what you do with a Windows PC. It's going to be perfectly fine for that kind of display technology. Now, when you're talking 4K stuff, things get a little interesting.
They could. They could. I'll be curious. They never mentioned AMD at all during the presentation. They just said x86 processor and 2 teraflops desktop-style GPU. Is that what they use? That kind of wording, at least. But as far as I know, Intel doesn't have a 2 teraflops GPU. So
Nope.
we're still pretty confident in that. And then I think the next question will be, how similar is the Xbox going to be? How is it going to be identical hardware, 8-core Jaguar, same GPU, same architectural design, or are they going to tweak them against each other, right, in some fashion? And 'cause
I think
the
in terms of
licensing IP
hardware, they're going to
chips.
be very, very similar. Where they're going to make their money is in terms of software and social experience.
Jeremy, I don't know if you have any other information on this. Scott posted next generation consoles not likely to be backwards compatible. I think we kind of assumed that because of the cell architecture going away and the PowerPC architecture going away.
Yeah. And essentially, they just confirmed it during that PS4 presentation that, yeah, you are not going to be playing your old games. Sorry.
I did think it was funny that they brought Dave Perry out, who started Gaikai and then got sold to Sony. And he said, maybe one day in the future, we'll be able to stream your PS1 and your PS2 and your PS3 games to you on this system. Pretty much saying that that's not going to be a feature of the PlayStation 4, at least not
much.
this year. So.
But once we get a hold of OnLive's IP, we might be able to do that.
Nice. All right. It'll going to be a short show, but I do want to talk about one more thing. Josh posted a story about NVIDIA releasing Tegra 4i, the Mini-Me.
The Mini-Me. We heard about Tegra 4 at CES. It was a very interesting and, looking good from the outside. Quad-core A15 with the +1 core in there, 72-core GPU. Has all kinds of little extras in there. They did lots of software and hardware work for, like, photography. And they've now released the Tegra 4i, which is a smaller version. It uses Cortex A9 processors. It uses a slightly different process technology from TSMC to get core speeds up to 2.3 gigahertz. It's also the version 4 of the Cortex A9, which has some serious improvements in terms of buffer sizes, I think cache management, memory management, some other things. So IPC is quite a bit higher than the original core Cortex A9 that you saw in the Tegra 2, and then the slightly upgraded version Tegra 3. So when you put all of these things together, you've got a really fast quad core with the +1. It's got decent graphics. It's probably one of the bigger things is this is the first, well, at least one of the first of the Tegra series with the latest Icera i500.
I think it is the first
software modem. Well, it's the first
Integrated.
i500. I think that there was a Tegra 2 plus a i410 modem that they had very, very limited amount of wins for, if any at all. But this is going to be the one that they're really pushing. It's a LTE-based modem, all kinds of interesting things that it can do. Power characteristics look really, really good. Performance for a smartphone is going to be excellent from what we see from the benchmarks that they've released to us. I think this perhaps is the product that could really put NVIDIA as a topic of conversation in smartphones as compared to just being a Qualcomm and Samsung type of world with the Crate and Exynos chips. Because up until this point, NVIDIA has made a small impact, but it's been really, really, really small. The Tegra 4i is positioned to be kind of a game changer in terms of features and performance and power consumption. But the problem with it, it's going to be released in Q4 of 2013, and we're not going to see kind of mass market availability until Q1 2014. So that's kind of an issue. But when we look at smartphones and the development time for a lot of these products, it takes a while. So maybe they'll get caught up with, maybe they won't. But this is an important product for NVIDIA, and certainly I'm excited to see actual end-user cell phones based on this and what it can do.
Isn't it nice that A9 is aged like Sophia Loren?
Pretty
It might be
much.
old, but it's still hot.
Yeah.
Hot as in good, not hot as in on fire. Right?
Fire.
Right. Okay, so like I said, it was going to be a short episode. We cut out a little bit, quite a bit of stuff. We've got a lot to do before tomorrow's review of the GTX Titan goes up, and the live stream with Tom Peterson here tomorrow. Again, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time. For that, you'll want to be here and join us for that. We're going to get into our hardware and software picks of the week. Now, mine is not a particular piece of hardware. It's a kind of a vague. It's a general love-hate relationship with Microsoft Excel. And when you start, as it turns out, Excel is a flat
Tool?
sheet database application. I guess that's what you would call it, a spreadsheeting tool. Well, it turns out when you start giving it multiple data sets that can range between 3 and 10,000 data points, and you try to say, make a graph at it, and you start to have multiple sheets with 6 to 10 of these different kinds of data points, and you have like 8 megabytes of flat database, Excel doesn't perform as well as you would like. I'm running a quad-core Ivy Bridge processor, non-hyper-threaded, but quad-core, and sometimes, like, changing a field that then has a bunch of indirect links, you see that CPU usage just spike to the damn roof for a split second. And it's really annoying to think that this is Excel. On the other hand,
Ryan, 10 years ago I was dealing with charts that had 14 to 15,000 data points.
Yeah.
And it was a deck of 120 charts.
Yeah.
Believe me, you have not felt pain yet.
That's true.
And
But
I don't do it anymore, thankfully.
so that's part of my hate side of it. It's just like, I can't believe that this is so kind of annoyingly slow sometimes. The love part is you can do some really cool stuff with it once you figure out Visual Basic, and you figure out that you can do things like you can name a graph based on a reference to a cell. And you can even reference it in an indirect cell, so you can concatenate strings together to form a title for a graph. You can use that for labels as well. And so when you start to do that, you can programmatically make it very intriguing. It's just a little bit time-consuming. And VBA, I haven't programmed for in a long time as well, which is kind of
Me
annoying.
neither.
Yeah, as we found out as we co-created some scripts today. So let's move on. Jeremy, what is your pick for this week?
Oh, it's got to be this, I'm sure everyone's heard of it, the physical 3D printer pen that is under Kickstarter right now. And, probably really isn't going to make their Kickstarter goal, because, they wanted a whole, 30 grand, and they're 9,000 short of $1 million. So you probably won't ever get this. From the pricing we can see, it's going to be about $75, because at that point you're actually getting a full 3D Doodler pen. It's essentially,
it's not
in a
small.
way, a glorified hot glue gun, but what it does is properly deal with the plastics that we see working in 3D printers nowadays, that the RepRap, the MakerBot, and all of the other fun stuff that you got.
Okay.
So it's ABS or PLL plastic, or PLA plastic. But at $75...
People's Liberation Army? People's Liberation Army?
Yes.
Nice.
As opposed to the Liberation of People's Army. We don't like them. But essentially, for about, North American prices, 20 to $30, you can buy a kilo of the plastic that this thing uses,
Okay.
which is going to be about 100 meters, plus or minus 10-15%, which this pen is essentially going to print a kilometer of stuff out of.
So do you still have to have artistic talent of some kind?
No, you can print guides. Much like if you can't sew, you cut everything out according to the
So you
pattern.
trace
or
it.
If you don't know how to make the plane, you follow the instructions. So you can trace out stuff. You can do a lot of stuff. But in one hand, I'm just thinking, for $100, this is going to be
Pretty awesome.
a lot of fun for a kid, as long as they're supervised, because hot glue gun, it will burn.
The first thing I would make would be a upraised middle finger. I don't know why.
But you could do that. If you're a gamer, you could have a lot of fun making terrain. It's not going to be a major investment to have, as a lot of the MakerBots and the other 3D printers are. Unless you want to join up with a big community and, pay to have one made for you with one.
Sure.
Because, hey, self-replicating technology is a great thing. But in this case, for about $100, you are never going to run out of plastic. And it's just going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
So either toss it on the Kickstarter, they've still got a few good packages left, or wait till it comes out. Either way, looks like a lot of fun.
Josh, you're up.
I am? Mm-hmm. Okay. Asus released a kind of interesting monitor. It's IPS-based, AH-IPS. It's 23-inch 1080p. It looks nice. It's got the really thin bezels. $229 is not a whole lot to ask. It's going to look nice. It's part of the Designo series.
Hey!
Designo.
Is that like the Cartman thing?
Yeah.
Maybe. But anyway, good looking monitor, nice panel, nice price. The only problem that I have, the stand sucks,
No VESA mounts.
and it is no VESA mount. So triple gaming monitors with thin bezels. Why?
Do you mean bezels? Is that
Why?
what you're saying?
Bezels.
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 It's a herb.
It's a
Bezels.
herb. Can we maybe just like duct tape these to a stand?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Can make a plastic stay.
Gaff tape. Or
You
yeah,
know, if I had that 3D pen gun thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, I guess that leaves Alan.
Oh.
What do you got? What do you got?
So I jumped on the bandwagon a while ago. I should probably wear these more often, since they actually,
jeez.
believe it or not, do make your eyes strain a lot less when you're using
You,
the
you
computer.
look like you're from Germany.
Do I?
Did you
It's, uh,
wait,
you talk
is-
like
are you-
this.
Write a serious review.
Are
Now
you,
it's time for us to test the SSDs.
are you maybe the
I'll
guy
put on-
that wrote that
First,
other
we must
article?
don the protective goggles.
I'll put these on and along with the lab coat. Right.
What's funny is these guys sent me glasses probably 8 years ago.
Well, I bought these.
Sucker.
I've never seen a negative review of them.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I tried them on at, what was it, QuakeCon. They had a booth up there. Like, it wasn't last year, I think.
That
it
was
the
where you
year
could like
before.
borrow the glasses if you left your ID or something like that, right?
No, they had a booth and a little, security strap on the thing, and you could just try them right there. So I tried them, and I was like, well, this might actually work, but I'm not sure. I'm not sitting at a computer, so can't tell for sure. But
And of course, Simpsons reference that everybody's doing. The glasses do nothing.
yeah, no, they do. They have a little bit of magnification to them. It's not a lot, but it's enough to notice that it's doing something. And you can't do like color accurate work, obviously, with these things because it gives everything a yellow hue. But that actually seems to help. The only time I've ever actually started to use them, because I'm just sort of an idiot, is once it's really late and my eyes are starting to get tired. Then I'll use them instead of trying to do that earlier. But I have used them and they do work.
I can't get past the feeling that this is like, remember that bracelet I used to wear?
Oh yeah, that's actually scary.
The
you
Nike
didn't
thing,
buy
you don't
one,
wear it
did you?
anymore.
No, the thing with the magnet in it. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, I can
Oh,
stand up so much
That
better.
that is a gimmick.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. I'm just saying.
That is a gimmick.
But I've seen plenty of negative reviews of those. I've never seen a bad review of these glasses.
Yeah.
They
so-
just got really good
but
PR.
Never a bad one.
well, and I mean, you
They
can
delete
find them
those.
for decently cheap on Amazon. I mean, they're not.
You're not going to wear those on the podcast from now on, are you?
No,
Because they have a huge reflection of your screen.
I know, and that's why I won't wear them on the podcast.
in them. And they're supposed to be anti-glare. What the crap?
Well, they're anti-glare
the
the other
crap?
way.
I'm just kidding.
The other way.
I don't really care.
Not,
All right.
Any-
Let's end this show so I can continue to bang away on a keyboard. Produce cool things like tighten up the graphics.
Tighten the graphics.
He's gonna take credit for that. now.
Tighten up the graphics.
I think you've started to hate that.
Yeah. No, I always hated it, let's be honest. So thank you for joining us. If you want to watch us record this live, you get to experience the cool things like the internet cutting out in the middle of it. You need to go to pcpro.com/live. We record it 10 p.m. on Wednesdays. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. 1900? No. No.
Add 5.
Add 5 to what? Us?
Yes.
So to
3 a.m.
3 a.m.
It's really not that difficult.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Plenty of time, Ryan. Plenty
Eastern
of
time is where the world is based. Let's be honest, and that's what we're going with. So 10 p.m. Eastern, and then pcpro.com/podcast. Spread that URL. If you hang out in some forums, if you hang out in some chat rooms, you think they might be interested in a somewhat funny, somewhat witty, sometimes dumb, sometimes really intelligent podcast about PC hardware, we would encourage you to share that. And then make sure you check out all of our other live streams coming up. Tom Peterson here tomorrow to talk about the Titan. We have a Tomb Raider game stream, a Bioshock Infinite game stream plan, and it's a secret. Alex from MSI is coming here.
No way!
He's going to be here next month, so we'll set that on the schedule because I know nobody's going to want to miss that. So we will see you next week with another PC Perspective podcast. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
Thanks, guys.